TIFU by letting out a scream of frustration. I live in a small condo where the walls are paper thin. It was later in the evening, around 10:30 p.m., and my fiancé and I got into an argument. That day I was also telling him about an awful work experience I had and my mood was really low. During the argument he leaves to take the dog outside and I grab a living room pillow and scream as loud as I can into it. When he comes back into the house he tells me he could hear the scream all the way from outside. 15 minutes later the cops knock on our door and question is both separately thinking domestic abuse is happening. They end up leaving after we both answer some questions. We are both shaken up about it. I feel ashamed and embarrassed and horrible for putting him through that. He hasn't spoken to me this morning and yeah. TIFU. TLDR. I screamed so into the void, but actually everyone in my condo heard and called the cops on my fiancé and I, thinking I was being abused. Lol, my husband did something similar. Working from home in a blockhouse. We've gotten used to neighbors not being able to hear that much from each other. My husband was working customer service calls and had an extremely rude customer. Apparently, after the call, he let out a scream of frustration. Did I mention that the home office is on the back of the house right by my neighbor's yard? Neighbor was in the yard. A minute later he's knocking on the door asking my husband if he was okay, needed help of some kind. Said the sound really scared him. On the bright side, at least you know your neighbors care about you, both smiley face. You need better quality pillows, up. I was an apartment dweller, condo dweller up through my 40s. I have a modest house now, but will never go back. Thin walls are the reason. I can't for the life of me figure out how it's even allowed in modern construction. There are ways to construct between unit walls that minimize noise. After building codes take care of safety issues. Building codes should absolutely require noise abatement between walls and floors. Just imagine how many fewer calls the police would be bothered with. 2. No, you didn't foo at all. You channeled your frustration into something harmless while your fiancé was a safe distance away. Rather than taking things out on him. It's just unfortunate that the walls were thin and neighbors took things the wrong way. But, at least you know you have neighbors who will get involved if they believe someone is in trouble. At first this was funny. But then I thought about it. So now everyone's gonna think he's some kind of abuser in the building. Something like this doesn't go on your police record, does it? If so, I can't blame him for being a bit aggravated. I probably would be too. Man, I wish my neighbors had called the cops. Lived in several places with my abusive ex and they always just pretended not to notice us when we were around. I always wondered if that intervention might have convinced me to leave a lot sooner than I did. Generally a pillow muffles well. So that must have been pretty loud, lol. So I have to ask. Is your voice box okay? Tears of joy. Best part is it will be on his police record forever. When I want to scream, I usually do it in my car. Don't ever stop at screaming. Especially muffled screaming. Always follow up with words. ASARGH. God damn it, work like I want you to. It happens. There were a bunch of news stories about people screaming for help and no one did anything. The big one most people know about, though usually their information is incorrect, is Kitty Genovese. She was murdered over several hours and a lot of it happened in public. Supposedly no one called the cops, which isn't completely true, but that's what most people know. The one that bothered me personally was a news story about a child who was beaten over several days. He was screaming during the beatings and eventually died from the beatings. Neighbors never did anything. People today would rather call the cops and let them sort it out if nothing is a problem then. Ignore the problem and find out later you were murdered. It's annoying and in some cases can even lead to someone's death, but they aren't doing it to be assholes. They are doing it because they don't want to be the people who didn't call for help when there is a problem.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.